All right, good evening and welcome to the City Council. It is Tuesday, June 23rd, and we will call this meeting to order at 6:30. We will roll call this time.
Councilor Moore, here. Councilor Morton, here. Councilor Martin Willis,
Here.
Councilor Waller,
Here.
Councilor Roden, here. Councilor Source.
I have heard he is on his way.
Okay, and Mayor Forrest.
Thank you. We have meeting minutes to review. Happy to accept a motion for both the regular meeting minutes.
I have something to say about the minutes. Thank you, this is 1 second, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing me to the meeting order, that's it. Regarding the minutes, Madam Mayor, I'd like council to acknowledge going forward that the council announcement portion of our meeting should be restricted to announcements only. If the council wishes to make a statement, they should follow protocol, see council rule section 3, subsection 3.2, and have the statement added to the agenda so that city staff, council, and most importantly, the community are informed. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And I move to approve both sets of minutes.
Second. Right, we have a motion to approve by Councilor Morton, and a second by Councilor Martin Willis. Thank you. Can we do a roll call, please, Martin?
Councilor Roden,
Aye.
Councilor Waller,
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis,
Aye.
Councilor Morton,
Aye.
Councilor Ford, aye.
Thank you. We do have several visitor comments tonight. So as a reminder, we do want to hear from everybody, and thank you for showing up to comment in person. We also, just for public record, we do have councilors do have email commentary that was submitted here at our desk with us. We do limit our comments to 3 minutes per person. And as a reminder, we do not respond to comments as council. We are here to listen tonight. And with that, when I call your name, if you could please come up to the podium and you just announce your name and also your city of residence. And the first one up tonight is Wyatt, please.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Wyatt Flo. I have been an Independence resident for the past 2 years, a history student in Western Oregon, and a volunteer at the Independence Heritage Museum. I wanted to begin my remarks by recognizing an important anniversary 11 days from now. On July 4th, Americans across the United States will be brought together by the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. On that same day, the Independence Heritage Museum will mark the 50th anniversary of its opening on July 4th, 1976. In the nearly half century since the museum opened, it has chronicled the story of one of Oregon's oldest communities, a city with a rich history that dates back to the days of the Oregon Trail and the first pages of our state's chapter in the larger American story. The preservation of this history would not be possible without the generous support of community members and stakeholders. Their time, stories, and donations to our collection are what make our museum the special local institution that it is. As a front desk volunteer at the museum, I have seen firsthand the impact that we have on this community, both educationally and economically. We receive visitors from nearby cities such as Salem, and on occasion from as far away as Iowa, people who found us either by chance or came to see us while traveling through our area. In every instance and with every visitor, we make an impression. No matter where they come from, those who visit marvel at our exhibits, and in doing so, marvel at the hard work, ingenuity, and resilience of generations who have called Independence home. Invariably, they mention how surprised they were that such a small community like ours could have such a great museum that was completely free of admission. Our city's motto is Oregon's story begins here. And at the Independence Heritage Museum, visitors see that story on full display. This Independence Day, as the nation reflects on a quarter millennia of US history, Americans will no doubt be thinking about figures looming large over the last 2.5 centuries. They may wonder, in the context of community, however, where they fit into the larger story of our country. The Independence Heritage Museum can help them find the answer to that question. By telling the story of the community, we give the people of Independence a bridge to their past and inspiration for their future. And with your support, we can continue to preserve the legacy of those who came before us, educate Independence residents of all ages, and show visitors what makes Independence the unique, vibrant, and storied city that it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kimberly Jensen.
I'm gonna hold it because I'm not quite as tall as this. City council members, good evening. My name is Kimberly Jensen. I'm a professor of history at Western Oregon University and a resident of Monmouth. Many of my students have and are now interning and volunteering at the Independence Heritage Museum. Their work in association with museum staff and other volunteers connects us to our history and to the diverse people who have shaped our community and call it home. A museum is a place, but it is also an idea. According to the American Association of State and Local History, a museum can help a community thrive and tell a shared history in which everyone belongs. I have seen the results at the Independence Heritage Museum in the bright-eyed wonder of young visitors as they gaze at a wall of tools or an early medical office, proud nods from other visitors at the Ella Curran Food Bank exhibit, and the results that come from deep conversations about our complex past, such as during question and answer periods following a sponsored history presentation. What I also want to emphasize this evening is that volunteering and interning with the museum has transformed the lives of my students. Under Amy Christensen's facilitation, we have enjoyed a number of volunteer Saturdays with a large group of history students who have cataloged everything from a paper dress from the 1960s to historic kitchen equipment and contributed to the America 250 quilt project. Some people, alums and current students, have a longer term commitment as volunteers or interns. Not only is there something really magical about seeing and helping to preserve objects from the past, students also gain a connection to this community and, importantly, the desire to learn more, to fit an object and the people who used it into the intricate puzzle of our past, and to teach others about it. The students are joyful about this work. They think it's very cool. They are inspired, and many of them plan to pursue careers in public history, in museums and archives. And there is something more. I have seen and am seeing now students gain the self-confidence that comes with belonging and giving back to the community that will serve them wherever their next steps take. I consider this to be one of the most tangible parts of students' associations with the museum. These great gifts from the museum are not only for my students to have, but they are for everyone in the community. I urge you to do all you can to support the Independence Heritage Museum, this powerful place and powerful idea today and in the future. The museum is more than a collection of material objects from our past. It is a foundation of community past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Stephen Russell.
Hello, my name is Stephen Russell. My mom and dad, Maxwell and Ramona Russell, after working in several areas of the state, settled in Independence in 1957. My wife's family came to the area in 1945 and settled in Independence in 1954. I'm here in support of the proposed fee in this year's budget for the library, museum, and parks. Through my conversations and my travels here in Oregon, when asked where I live, I'd say Independence. And then the look of where's that? I start my usual explanation 12 miles south of Salem, 20 miles north of Corvallis, and then I say, and by Monmouth, where Western Oregon University is, and some recognition had come into their face. Oh yeah, I know where that is. Now with the new town event center and hotel, the variety of stores, including vintage and antique stores and restaurants, the location of the library, heritage museum, and Riverview Park within town, and then the other city parks. The individuals will say, oh, I know where that is. Comments, I've been there, I plan on plan on going, and I've read about it, at the museum and the events. Our city library is not just a place to check out books, it not only encourages reading, but which comes with knowledge. It's a place to use public computers. It provides comfortable atmosphere to just come in, read a magazine, newspaper, or book they recommended. Every city should take pride in their library, and ours is a great library. Take pride in it. Our museum is also a great asset to the city. It has become a destination museum for some. You would be hard pressed to find a museum with more information about the city it is in. The individuals from areas who were in the military and the general growth from dirt roads to what it is today. You'll find information about hops, old ferries, doctors, dentists, and the schools from the past. You can learn about our founding fathers and families, where the name Henry Elementary came from, and where the Independence High School was, the growth and history of Western University. We have several parks in town. All of them have special aspects. One of the oldest is on North 7th Street. Great Memories is this tree-covered park. The community parks where our children can safely play, Riverview Park with river access and playground. All these need to be maintained and safe for everyone's use. The library, museum, parks are a plus to the city and should be continually funded. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Next up, we have Michael Hitz.
Good evening. Last week, online, I kind of saw that, our semi-resident.
Can you state your name?
Oh, yes, I could.
Just
My name is Michael Hicks, of Independence. I've been in the area for the last 20 years. I have familiar connections back to the 1970s in the area. Last week, I saw online that our semi-resident blogger put a sort of call to arms out for this meeting, in response to the council considering the parks and community service fees and related ordinances. I figured I'd take the opportunity to speak out in favor of the fees and then push back against some of the narratives that have been spread throughout the community. First, talk around the museum's move seems to have be portrayed as sort of a vanity project. Council was passing it just because, but this ignores the fact that the old museum's location was not ADA compliant. And if there were ever to be a complaint made, the city would have faced steep fines and an obligation to renovate the building that would likely cost way more than the museum, the move of the museum. Also, while the recordings and talk is largely centered around the costs of the fee or levy, very little has been said about what we'd be giving up if these weren't passed. Do we really think that any of the community events at the park would still be possible if we do not have a maintenance budget for the park? Also, I checked out the library calendar before I came over here and saw at least 20 or so events being put on by the library this summer. Library is one of those places where kids can make decisions and figure out what they're into and try things out without really incurring a financial burden. I used to take my son and daughter to the library to go pick out stories, and they would like me to read to them at night. Some of these stories would suck us in, and then we'd go look see if the sequels were available. Some of them weren't our jam, and we just wouldn't finish them. The value of public libraries to communities has been well documented in studies and studied. You have free internet and computers for people that are lacking reliable access at home. This seems especially important these days since it seems like every single job has to be applied for online. I don't want to discount the financial ask of the community by implementing sorry, dropped a hit. Studies have also linked childhood access to public libraries and or to higher educational outcome achievements and encourages creativity. Libraries also acted as an equalizer, disparity in resources available to the child at home.
Thank you. And our last speaker tonight is Vicky McCubbin. Vicky McCubbin.
Like Goldilocks, it's the right height. My name is Vicky McCubbin and I live on Cessna Street in Independence. I'm here to speak in favor of the fee for community services and parks. Most of you know my strong support for the library, museum, and parks, and that I serve on several of their boards, including the committee looking for ways to keep basic services on life support. The comments I'm about to relate to you are not ones I was preparing. The ones with research and data, the ones contrasting the levy with the fee. My afternoon outing to Subway in the plaza changed my mind. This hot afternoon, I didn't feel like cooking, so I went out to pick a couple of sandwiches for lunch. I'm a talker, and so I visited with a young man who was preparing my lunch. He told me he had graduated from Central High School a few years ago and that he loved living in Oregon, but was not enjoying this hot day. When I reached into my wallet to take out my credit card, I inadvertently pulled out my library card. I joked that the library card would buy my lunch. To which he responded, you know, I've been thinking about getting a library card and wanted to know if it was difficult to get one. I explained and then said, great. And I further explained when you get your card, you can sign up for summer reading program and might even win a prize for reading books. He was genuinely enthused, and after I paid, he said he was going to check into getting that library card. Our library is an important resource. We can't let it close. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to reports and presentations. I'm going to keep my mayor's report short and sweet tonight because we have a long agenda ahead. I did want to just mention that we've started a new series called We've Heard. Thank you, Senator West, for helping with that, where we do a little bit more behind the scenes dive into some common questions that we're getting in the community. So if anyone has any suggestions, we've already gotten some really good ones in. So we are looking forward to continuing that. We're working hard to just get information out to the community. Also, we've welcomed a couple of new businesses downtown in the last couple of weeks. So I hope everyone has a chance to stop by and welcome them to the community. And we are officially in the start of summer. And you can tell because we have our first movie in the park coming up on June 26th. And then this little event called 4th of July, which is starting next week, which is already movie. And then our first concert will kick off on July 10th. So I hope everyone is ready for a busy summer ahead, and we're looking forward to downtown being vibrant. Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to City Manager List.
Myra, we need batteries. Keeps going to red and yellow. You want to try that one and also? Yep.
Okay, we're good. Thank you. Normally or often, mayor and council, I see my timelines are on agenda. But tonight I am going to do my best to not be emotional because you know me and that's not my style. But I would like to take a moment during my report time to remember St. Helens City Administrator John Walsh. John was a good friend. We served together on the League of Oregon Cities board, and over the years we developed the kind of friendship that often grows between city managers. Ours is a profession that can be challenging and at times isolating. John understood that. When he knew someone was carrying a heavy burden, he reached out. When things were difficult, he checked on me, and I did the same for him. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to spend time with John at a recent conference. We spoke about our families, our communities, and the challenges facing local government, the work we both cared deeply about. I'm especially grateful that we spoke just days before his passing, discussing the challenges facing our communities the work we do, and our families. John was an exceptional city manager. He was calm, thoughtful, patient, and unfailingly kind. He approached people with grace and respect, even in difficult circumstances. His community was better because of his service, and those of us who had the privilege of knowing him were better for his friendship. John was a husband, a father, a dedicated public servant, and a genuinely good man. His passing is a profound loss for his family, for the city of St. Helens, for the local government community throughout Oregon, and for those of us fortunate enough to call him a friend. He will be deeply missed. I would ask that we take just a brief moment in John's memory. Thank you, council and community, for allowing us to honor John.
Thank you, Stella. This was very hard, for all of the communities. So our first order of unfinished business tonight is item 6.1, the second reading of the proposed ordinance number 169, the ordinance adopting Independence Municipal Code 2.
All right. Now
I'll read it all out and let me give you another
No,
couple of seconds.
I'll go into it. Where am I here? Okay. Normally in a second reading, we wouldn't talk a lot. However, this is an important ordinance for our community. So before you tonight is the second reading of ordinance 1639, which would adopt the community services and parks fee and make related amendments to the utility billing code. A first reading was completed on June 9th. And because the vote was not unanimous, the ordinance returns tonight for discussion and adoption. Now, why we're here, the issue before the council is how to address the structural general fund deficit that became fully visible after the city transitioned away from historical funding practices that rely on utility fund transfers and interfund borrowing. Over the last several years, the city implemented a series of financial reforms consistent with municipal finance best practices, including eliminating non-calculated transfers from utility funds, eliminating interfund loans, retaining utility revenues for utility purposes, reducing expenditures, selling property, and identifying operational efficiencies. Now, remember, we're a council manager form of government. This council told me we need to fix our finances, we need to make our budget transparent, we need to fix our infrastructure. That's what we've been working on for 4 years. This is how we got where we are. We had a number of independent reviews. Both the city's contract finance director through Marina and Company and the HUD-funded Jensen Strategies reviews concluded that the city faces a structural general fund challenge that cannot be resolved through temporary measures alone. Both of those reviews identified the need for either additional ongoing revenue, additional service reductions, or a combination of the two. Knowing this was important, the council put together an all-community member ad hoc committee to review the financial situation and take a look at what could be done. They looked at everything possible and they recommended that a fee be implemented. The consideration of the fee was added to the budget process at the request of the council to allow the community more time to consider it, learn about it, talk about it. The budget committee accepted public testimony taken at every budget committee meeting, which in and of itself is a little bit different. Usually we have one meeting, but again, to provide the community more time to talk, to learn, to understand what is going on in the fee process, they were able to provide that comment at every meeting. The budget committee recommended a budget that included the fee that had also been recommended by the ad hoc committee. The city council adopted the budget on June 9 and considered the implementation of the fee at that first reading on June 9. Now let's talk about some of the services that will be affected. The general fund services most affected are parks, library, and museum. And as we heard, they contribute to recreation, education, cultural preservation, and overall quality of life within the community. The purpose of the fee is to support those services. And it's important to note that the proposed fee is significantly reduced from the levy that was considered previously. it's about $400 less per year. So it was about $630 per year for the levy. It's about 230. I'm rounding, about 230 for the fee. And that was taken into consideration by that ad hoc committee. They knew it was different, and they were looking at what they called life support. And they considered it life support because they wanted to sustain the services while the city continued pursuing long-term solutions, including economic development, reduction of debt obligations, and improvement of the urban renewal performance, which had been underperforming. Now, we've staff has heard suggestions that there might be a referendum petition should this ordinance be adopted. If a referendum petition receives sufficient signatures and is certified, the ordinance would be suspended pending the outcome of the election. During that period, the city would not be able to collect community services and parks fee. Because the general fund does not have sufficient resources to continue operating the affected departments without the fee revenue, the city would need to begin planning for closure of those services immediately upon certification of a referendum. Waiting until the election outcome is known would continue expenditures without a funding source and result in further detriment to the city's financial situation. Now, there are different ways to close. The library is a special circumstance. There is a statute that indicates how to close the library. The other services can be closed administratively, but the library takes a particular process. So we would publish a notice in the newspaper of general circulation, which for us is the Itemizer Observer, at least 30 days before the first public hearing. We would have to publish 2 consecutive weeks. And then the first public hearing would be held. And then we wait 90 days from the first published notice before the second public hearing may be held. And a second public hearing before the library may be formally closed. So notice for 2 weeks, 30 days, public hearing, 90 days, public hearing. Running the numbers based on the statutory requirement, the earliest possible closure timeline would be November 10. That would be if we ran first notice July 1, second notice July 8, first public hearing August 11, and second public hearing and potential closure November 10. What that closure means is we would keep our library director to close down the library. This will take months. You don't just lock it and walk away. But other library staff would be laid off. As far as the other services, the parks and the museum could be administratively closed immediately. What that would mean, the museum would close, and again, similar to the library, the museum director would be kept on to take care of the exhibits and move things where they needed to be moved, clean things out, do what needed to be done. The parks could be closed almost immediately, and that means all of the bathrooms would be closed. The one park employee would most likely be absorbed into public works, but I have no guarantee of that. Any of the events that were scheduled to happen would not be able to happen because we would not have staff. Yes, the summer series can support itself, but we don't have staff to clean the bathroom. The bathrooms couldn't be open, but to clean the garbage facilities, to mow the lawns. We would have to not have the contractor. Everything would shut down. Now, another thing that's just recently come up that we are going to have to discuss, and we haven't as yet, is the old library building, which is now used as an art center. We have to start talking about that. Because as we look at potential service reductions, we've really focused on operating costs and service delivery, but we've not evaluated fully yet the implications to that old library building. As we understand it at this point, the property was conveyed to the city with restrictions requiring continued use for certain purposes. If those uses cease, there may be legal and property ownership implications that require further review. So we're evaluating that right now, but it will be something we will have to discuss. The other thing to be aware of is that building itself is in relatively poor condition and requires maintenance and repair. We currently do not have funding available to address those long-term capital needs. Should the referendum proceed and result in suspension of fee collection, the future of the old library center would become an additional issue that we would have to talk about. And we're not at this time making any recommendations as far as that. I'm just bringing it up because it will be a part of the discussions to be had. Now, operational considerations. Given the lengthy statutory timeline, staff believes that it would be prudent to begin the closure process as soon as possible. Beginning the process does not commit the city to completing it. If circumstances change or if the referendum does not proceed, the city may discontinue the closure process. However, delaying the initiation of the process would extend the period during which the city continues to incur costs without corresponding revenue sources. To help offset the costs associated with the library's extended closure timeline, immediate closure of parks and museum operations would need to occur. Even then, limited staffing would need to remain in place, as I talked about, in order to shut things down. And we will still have a funding problem. So the question for the council tonight is policy choice. Independent financial reviews by experienced experts have consistently concluded that maintaining current service levels requires additional ongoing revenue, additional service reductions, or some combination of the two. You get to decide what that looks like. None of the independent reviewers recommended a return to the prior financial practice of moving funds from water, sewer, storm, and streets to the general fund. So at this time, you get to consider a second reading of the ordinance number 1639.
I have a question. When you said that none of the independent reviewers recommended us using the old methods of transferring, is that because it's illegal to do so, or they just don't recommend it?
Well, Counselor, I don't like to use legal and illegal, particularly when referring to practices. The city has ordinances in place that indicate that water should be used for water, sewer for sewer. And the budget law indicates the same thing. And the city council has indicated their desire to follow those ordinances and budget law. Sorry, Mayor.
I was gonna say, as a follow-on to that, we, as a council, we have given policy direction to stop that practice. There is an expectation among residents that when they pay their water bill, their sewer bill, those dollars are going to provide the services. And so the tricky part of that is when money is then taken from that and put towards another use, we are essentially charging them a fee that we aren't being transparent on. Right? Because I'm charging you for water, I'm charging you for sewer, and then I'm taking that money and I'm spending it in other places. And thankfully, several years ago, we did decide as a council, as a policy level, to stop that practice. And now, at least with our public safety fee and other fees that are actually on our water bill, they are called out specifically. We have our water that goes to water, sewer, etc. And then we have the public safety fee, but that dollar amount is specifically called out, so people understand on their utility bills where that money is going. So that is, I know, one of the reasons, one of the primary reasons, because it does get money when we are not being clear about what we are charging people money for. So we are actually being more transparent than we ever have been in terms of where that dollar amounts are going.
I was just double checking with Finance Director Carrie that there was no nationwide.
And I guess also, so just to clarify, because I don't I guess two things that I know that I've heard from people. With the potential referendum, that people have a thought that. If this goes to referendum, to the voters in November. That we would be collecting this fee up until November, and I think that is important. to Clarify through that process, like you just said, we have to stop collecting that fee basically almost immediately. So that has big budget ramifications to us. And then the other thing that what you were talking about today is, with the process. That we have to follow with the public notice on the library, that this referendum actually could cost the city. A fair amount of money.
It would be, because of the long timeline, we would be taking money from wherever we could find it. Do you wanna take a shot at this, Amanda?
So I have some high level preliminary numbers I've kind of put together for this scenario. Just evaluating ongoing costs that would have to be incurred throughout the operations, things like phones, electric utility service, all of those costs that don't go away when we close the doors to the public. So currently, the Community Services Department of Museum and Library has a budget all in of $893,350. Pulling out any expenditure that I could from the budget. I was able to extrapolate, we could save about $467,000. So we would still need to spend about $426,000 for my calculations to get through the closure. Additionally, parks reducing maintenance, the parks worker, any costs aside from just a couple unavoidable in the fund would still have expenditures of over $150,000. So that's going to be a hit to the general fund. We would be missing the $948,000 approximate fee revenue that is budgeted included in the general fund, and still having to expend about $650,000. So that would be a hit to our general fund.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this whole sequence squared away in my brain, and I suspect there may be some follow confusion as well. So if we were tonight to basically just say no to the fee, how does that change and affect that closure process? I mean, does it just speed it up? I'm assuming those same steps would still need to happen as far as notices and public hearings for closures.
Correct.
So, and I guess this is the point that I need clarifying. What is the significant difference between us choosing not to institute the fee, and then we know everything's gone, or waiting for the possibility of a successful referendum?
Are you asking?
Were we to go forth and approve the fee,
Mhm.
and then the group that is seeking a referendum to overturn the fee, what I'm trying to get clarity on is how does that affect this whole closure process and the funds that the city would have to expend if the referendum were successful and the fee were overturned? I mean, we still have to go through that closure process. Either way, the funds are being spent during the notification. And I think the significant difference that I see is, one is us making a decision.
I don't like the idea of being responsible for saying, no, library's closed, too bad it's 90 degrees, sorry, there's no place to go to cool down. Sorry, you have to entertain your own children and read to them, oh gosh, no park to go play in. Sorry, or as I say, if there, and tonight, everything I've heard was pro fee. And I love hearing those voices. Why, I guess, why not just wait for the public to make that decision if those loud voices that we hear in opposition to the fee are in fact in the majority? Is there a financial?
Oh, okay, I see, I think I get it.
Is there a
finally understand.
financial advantage to one over the other? It seems to me that either way, we still have to do all these closure notices, publications, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I?
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's, can I add one thing quickly? Cause I think the confusion for me, when we've been talking about the fee and implementing that, it was, if the fee stops, we will close everything down. I think the wrinkle in the process is understanding now that libraries have a separate process, so we can't just lock the door and walk away from the library. We have to go through a somewhat lengthy process that city manager West laid out. And then that will have a financial implication to it that I don't think we were initially expecting we would do.
Correct, because we will leave it in place, so the longer that we take to implement the first notice, the longer that the library stays fully active. So if we delay, which is why the recommendation was to start the process as soon as possible. Because we can always end the process if the referendum doesn't come into play. But if we wait until August and to put the first notice out, that's an additional month, potentially a month and a half, depending on timing when we get the notices and et cetera. So up to 2 months of a fully functioning library. Which is an additional for each month fully operational is about 58,500. Now remember, without the fee, the approximation of our contingency is $200,000. Does that help?
Still kind of clear as mud, but yeah, a little bit, sorry.
Okay. Did I step on?
No, okay, please.
I have looked this up and down both sides, and I'm gonna try to simplify it for my own edification. It won't matter if we stop the fee tonight, or if we let the referendum do whatever the referendum's gonna do, and if it gets all the signatures, they get certified, and it will be validated for going on to the ballot. That date is the stop date, not the ballot date. So
It's the certification date.
yes,
Correct.
I realize the library is on a little different track because of other state laws. But the minute that referendum is certified by the county, that is when the museum closes. That is when park maintenance quits.
Correct.
And so even though there's a contract with the people that are performing in the summer series, we don't have a contract with them that affects the maintenance of the park.
Correct.
So, and we would only be opening the restrooms because it's a necessity, or we'd be renting porta potties or something. But that means all the other parks that we have would immediately stop maintenance. So for the rest of the summer, our parks get overgrown, they get not mowed, not edged, not beautified, not anything. They go wild.
Public Works Director called it feral.
Feral, I like that. So,
And the garbages wouldn't be taken out, etc.
so basically, I've heard people say, oh, well, the city would never close the library. It's not our choice. It's if we wanna leave it open, we need to, and we wanna retain the fee to pay for these services, we need to approve, 1639. So that it moves forward at a reasonable and, visible and transparent pace. I think the public needs to know about the staggered who goes, who stays and all of that. Because it is more complicated, because there's not just one law that says this is how you do it. But I think it's important to understand that if we have a referendum filed to stop the fee, that starts its own clock.
Correct.
And that means that just the act of getting it on the ballot, not even voting on it, immediately ceases museum operation park maintenance.
Correct. And that is because we cannot collect the fee, and without the fee, we cannot afford to operate those services.
But we could, as a council, decide to go back to the good old days and to intertransfer loans in the meantime until the community votes in November to decide if they want to have these fees. We could do that as a council. We could decide, instead of closing the museum and the library, to wait for the community to place their vote, and we continue to fund these with intertransfer loans. It is possible.
Counselor,
It may not be recommended, but
what
it's possible.
we have been told by the experts is, and by Mr. Moody, who's one of the foremost finance director experts in the state. And what we have seen is that if you take money from water and sewer and streets and storm, those critical infrastructure fail. Our infrastructure for a decade, maybe decades, did not have enough money. I have an entire list. I don't know if I brought it.
No,
I have pages. And if we go back to that, you are putting at risk your children's water, your children's safe streets, your children's sewer. So the council can do what the council wants to do. Every expert has indicated what they would recommend.
And I apologize if it made it sound like I was a long term, but I was just thinking in the meantime, it is possible.
To add on to that though. By doing that, if council directed that we would transfer money from utility, we are effectively charging that same fee to the community, to the residents.
I understand that, but
So, I mean, it's a.
but people's water bills aren't gonna work. And that's what people are concerned with.
Well, I think obviously it's a complicated thing, but I would have we are trying very hard to be transparent with the community about what's going on. We've been up front throughout this whole process, starting before budget, ad hoc committee, their recommendations, taking that to council taking that to budget, we have been consistent. And there is a public process to do a referendum, and if the community chooses to proceed with that, that is their right to do that, and we will deal with that at that time. I will absolutely go on record for saying that I would not be in support of even temporarily using utility funds to have a gap or a bridge in this process.
I would also like to just jump in and remind the council that for these utility funds, we have certain amount of contingencies that we are required to hold because of the debts on the utilities. There's a certain amount of fundage that those enterprise funds have to maintain. There is not an excess of funds. We actually, if you recall during the budget process, we had to amend the proposed budget in the water, sewer and storm funds because during the process, we had changed the contingency numbers and they were not high enough, so we had to move the appropriations that were presented. We do not have, without looking just at the top of my head, but I would say, I don't feel comfortable saying that we would have close to $1 million to cover the fee revenue from our utilities.
Thanks. So I'm gonna be kind of careful here because I'm very frustrated in this whole situation. I don't want to take it up with my colleagues. By any means, I think everyone here is doing the best they can and asking fair questions, but I'm really struggling with the fact that we're now facing a situation people in this community have made choices about for decades. Some of the loudest voices against this fee are some of the same people who made those poor choices.
Yes.
And I think it's very frustrating to sit here and listen to people on the internet who made very poor choices for the city, talk about how they shouldn't have to pay a $12 fee to keep a library. Well, $12 difference, $19 fee to keep a library, the museum and our parks. People who made decisions on this very building about the vote of the people or the council deciding who are allowed now, who have the audacity to be loud now, turn off to tell people that this is the chance for us to say no to our community, that's crazy to me. You know, Councilor Roden, I really respect you and I understand you're looking for a way, but the reason why our community smells like poop is because we don't have the means to clear the sewer ponds because people have been stealing money from the utilities to pay for the library, the parks and the museum. It's crazy. So I get our community's frustration around the fact that they don't know what the heck they're paying for in their utility bills. But there's nothing we can do now. We're stuck with the choice of charging more fees or just letting the community fall apart. And we can't let the community fall apart. We have to have our parks. We have to have our library. And we have to have our museum. These are places for our community to stay cool, for our children to learn, for our children to have activities. I mean, I encourage you all to look at the museum schedule if or the library schedule if you haven't seen, 20 different activities like Michael said in his testimony. Like, we don't have a choice here, and I think that's the most frustrating part. The reason why I'm most frustrated is I don't have a choice as a counselor, a yes or no. Because I can't look community members in the eye and say, I voted to close your library. Sorry, you have to figure out where you're gonna go to get a book for your kid. I can't tell people they can't hang out at the park. Like, I can't do that. And I do have a question for our city manager. So if we close these parks, we use the police department to enforce the closure, are we gonna arrest people who are trying to hang out in the park?
Well, I don't know that we would arrest people, but,
If they refuse to leave?
Tino, I know you're here.
Like, I mean, it's a fair question. If we're closing parks, what happens if people?
Well, so there's different levels, counselor. We do have, state law that if someone is on city property and they are perhaps sleeping, we can't move them along, right? So that plays a part in what's going on. If someone is simply playing in the park and the park is, has a sign that says closed, no trespassing, don't enter, I would assume, and Tino could correct me if I'm wrong, we would move them along, but we have to be very cautious. We have to be very cautious.
So we're gonna tell kids who are playing in a park, sorry, you have to move along.
But if you think about what the park would look like, counselor, it might be safer to have them move along because it's
And I
not
hear
mowed.
you, and I also hear in my I'm sorry, but I hear in my neighborhood, they're tired of kids playing in the streets because they have no place to go, no park to go, right? So, is that the solution? Sorry, kids, you're just gonna play in the streets and, if something tragic happens, I guess we didn't wanna pay $12.65,
1965.
1975, thank you, sir. The difference, because we're lowering public safety, well, but, okay. Semantics. So that's the answer, is that we'll just tell kids they can't play farms, so they can't go to the lab.
I don't have any other answer other than shut them down because I
That's fair.
don't know where to get the money.
That's not your decision, that's why we're, but I need to ask the question, so thank you.
I know this is,
Just quickly, I agree wholeheartedly with Counselor Source. You know, Counselor Roden is referring to practices that former city managers had in place. And the majority opinion of the budget committee, 2-3 years ago, was we're not gonna do it from loan transfers. The majority decision of the council was not gonna do it from loan transfers. So to bring that subject up again is a moot point. We have made that decision, we moved on from that decision.
no, I appreciate that. Obviously, this is a difficult conversation. We have spent months looking, not just months, years. I mean, the alarm bells were sounded on this a long time ago. We're not unfortunately the only community facing these difficult decisions. There communities closing schools, closing facilities, reducing hours. We're trying to do the best that we can. We're using the best practices and resources that we have available to us. I believe that previous city managers, administrations made the decisions they thought were right at the time with the tools and resources they had. We're doing that same thing. We're making those decisions based on what we know today. And those are difficult choices. And we're also very aware that we are asking a lot of the community right now. We are asking people at a time when the economy is not thriving, when people are not necessarily super confident about what's coming ahead, to pay more. We pay these fees as well. So we are voting essentially to raise fees on ourselves. And it's a difficult conversation. I know that not everybody is frankly able to do that. So we don't take these decisions lightly. And it's unfortunate, I don't know that we ever anticipated that we would have to have these conversations of what do we do to close down a library, which is probably why we're struggling with. I don't understand the time frame of that because we never would have had been facing a situation where we cannot provide this level of services to our community because it's part of what makes our community such a vibrant place. And to think about having to cancel remaining summer series, not even Fiesta. I mean, that is a big part of what makes our community thriving and vibrant over the summertime and beyond. And it's incredibly detrimental to our downtown businesses, not just our downtown businesses, but to our community as a whole. When we think about the economic impact that that will have for our community, it is not. I appreciate people taking the time to provide the commentary. I appreciate the counselors also being thoughtful about the decisions and the questions asked.
So first I want to apologize. I want to recognize that $19 is an investment. And that is a cost that we will all have to pay. That's a real cost. That doesn't happen. So I apologize if some feel that way. But I also want to say one of the advantages of fee over a levy is that when we understand that the crisis is over, we can make decisions. So I want the community to hear that. If it looks like we're at a place where we can reduce the fee, we're able to do that in a quicker way than a levy, which is a certain amount. So, Councilor Manager West. If you want this question answered now, that's fine, but my understanding is a lot of the debt comes due in the next 5-ish years. Is that the case?
I was checking with Finance Director Carey. We don't have the exact information. We do have some debt that, if I recall correctly from previous conversations, is dropping off within the next 3 to 5 years. So I seem to say 3 to 5 a lot, but.
Further questions?
I'm ready to go, right?
I move to read the proposed ordinance number 1639 for the second time by title only.
Second. We have a motion by Councilor Horn and a second by Councilor Martin Lewis, and further discussion. Yeah, Councilor Roden. No, go ahead.
So I am. Thank you, City Manager West, for explaining it to me. I appreciate all the details and I appreciate you taking the time to really lay it out. Because it is so clear to people. I do support the museum and the work of Amy Christensen. I think she does an amazing job. I do support our library. I think it's a resource for our community. However, I don't feel the process that we went by to have a committee to look at our budget to see if we could find the funds it was not a reflection of our community. It was a small group of people who I feel are biased towards the library and the museum and their special interests and didn't really have the opportunity to dive into our budget to see if there's somewhere else we could have found these funds. I don't feel that it's transparent when we have members of the museum, friends of the parks, people on the budget committee serving to that specialized committee to try to find those funds. And for that reason, and because we could increase the fee or decrease it, I mean, all the things that I've stated before, I'm gonna vote no on this, but it's not because I don't love the museum and the parks, it's the process that went to get to this point. I do not love.
Yeah, I made a few comments, I made a few notes, I'd like to read out, communities like ours that are seeking to attract new industry and expand our tax base must offer the quality of life amenities that businesses and their employees value, including libraries, museums, and well-maintained parks. For the library, the loss would extend far beyond a building or a collection of books. Longtime staff members who have devoted decades to serving this community would be laid off. Library programs have helped generations of Independence children develop a love of reading, provided meaningful volunteer opportunities for students and seniors, and supported work study learning opportunities for Western students. These services, formed primarily by Leanne Mosier and Jolene Hall, represent years of community investment and relationship building that cannot easily be replaced once lost. The museum's value is sometimes questioned, often by those whose memories are rooted in the previous facility. Before its relocation, the museum occupied a building that was damp, dark, cramped, and inaccessible to many visitors. It was not ADA compliant, making it difficult or impossible for many seniors, veterans, and individuals with mobility challenges to participate in tours or events. Since relocating, the museum has been transformed into a modern, accessible community asset. Today, it operates in an ADA compliant facility, hosts educational programs and exhibits, and serves as a gathering place for organizations such as the American Legion. The museum that exists today is fundamentally different from what residents remember from years past. Ultimately, the question for the community is not whether libraries, museums, and parks are worthwhile. It is whether the community will provide the funding necessary to continue operating them. Without the support, these institutions and the services, programs, and opportunities they provide will disappear. And I want to speak to a moment for the ad hoc committee as well. Councilor Roden, everyone is biased. I think it's incredibly dismissive to assume that the members of that committee did not come to that task sincere and dedicated to finding monies somewhere. The fee was not their initial thought walking in the door. They agonized over decisions. They talked to the city manager and the finance director at length to come up with a solution, and that was their recommendation.
All right, I've got just two things. I can't believe we're still talking about the levy. You know, the levy was a supplement to the budget that was passed after last year. Okay, this right here is a fee that we are imposing based on the budget that we asked the staff to provide and that the budget committee decided on. So we decided on budget, and this fee is part of that budget. So it's completely different. And then as far as the public comments, every person that I've heard personally that was against the fee started off by saying that they support the libraries and museums. I support having a car, but I still have to buy the gas. Okay, you can't say you support something if you're not willing to pay for it.
There, and it's
Source?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Counselor Rivera. It's really easy to say you support something, but proof is in the pudding. And so, you know, at the end of the day, this is about sustaining critical community services. The average age of a person in our community is 29 years old. Not retirees, they're 29 years old, they have young families. They're reliant on museum, they're reliant on the parks. They're reliant on the library. It would be a dereliction of duty, if you ask me, for us to vote against this fee. So for that, I'm looking forward to it, so thank you.
Very call for question. We're good. I think everyone has said about everything that I would have to say. Let's see this.
Your roll call, please, Sonia.
Counselor Ford,
Aye.
Counselor Martin,
Aye.
Counselor Martin Willis,
Aye.
Counselor Boisvert,
Aye.
Counselor Roden, opposed, Counselor Source.
Aye. Vote. Aye. Turn off my vote.
And I need to read the title. An ordinance adopting Independence Municipal Code INC Chapter 2, Administration Article 8, Service Fees, and amending INC 34-400 Utility Service Billing. So, second? Yeah, third motion.
I move to adopt the proposed ordinance number 1629.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Martin Willis and a second by Councilor Paul. Is there discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Source,
Aye.
Counselor Roden, opposed, Counselor Boisvert,
Aye.
Counselor Martin Willis,
Aye.
Counselor Morton,
Aye.
Counselor Ford.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, we have, new business proposed resolution number 26167. That's our signature list.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is resolution 261657. This resolution doesn't establish a new fee, change the amount of the community services and parks fee, or amend 1639, ordinance 1639. The entire purpose of this resolution is to simply classify the fee under the process established by Oregon law. So the Oregon statutes authorize local governments to classify fees as either subject to or not subject to the limitations contained in Measure 5. It's a fifth fee, Measure 5, which I know you've all heard me talk about ad nauseum, so I'm not going to go into that. Resolution 261657 classifies the community services and parks fee as an incurred charge and therefore not subject to the Measure 5 limitations. So let's make compression. The purpose of the resolution is to provide legal clarity regarding the classification of the fee. State law provides a specific process for local governments to make that classification. That is this resolution. And once this resolution passes, we will provide notice out to the public that it is being classified as a incurred charge. If adopted, the notice as required by statute will be published. The policy decision on this has already been addressed, right? You passed the ordinance. So now you're just classifying it. So we're going to recommend adoption of resolution 261657. And I printed out the particular agenda packet, but the motion on mine is page 33. Myra, what is it for everybody else? Okay.
I move to adopt resolution 26-1657, classifying the community services and parks fee as an incurred charge and directing the city recorder to publish the appropriate notice. Second.
A motion by Councilor Martin Willis and a second by Councilor Ford. Do we have any questions or discussion?
I had something to say.
Councilor Schultz?
Thank you, Mayor. I just, for the record, I think we need to repeat Measure 5, so I don't do this silliness. So we just say that for the record, it's crazy.
Oh, we have
If
power.
we didn't have Measure 5, none of this conversation would happen. I want to put that on the record. Legislature needs to do something.
I just want to say that my concern with this is that us calling this a fee and not a tax, when my whole argument for this fee is people should have the opportunity to vote on. So that's my concern, is even though other communities are allowed to vote on it.
I think people have to have that same option. Are you okay? I wasn't sure if she was trying.
This is not, I mean, technically, this is a fee, this is not a tax, so I think we need to
Correct.
clarify for.
That's what I said, I think the fees should vote it.
And there is a process by which that can happen, and word is that someone may have that process begun. And if that is the will of the community, then that process could be successful.
There's a process for people to follow.
I am not prepared to make those decisions on behalf of the community to eliminate important services.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, that, move to a roll call, please.
Council Source,
Aye.
Council Burton, Council Water,
I,
Council Martin Lewis,
Aye.
Council Morton,
Aye.
Council Core.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to 7.2, a public hearing to consider renaming Madrona Street and Independence High Street.
Yes, I think you do have a script. Potentially.
Yes, sorry. Yes, 7 here and 7 here. Okay, bear with me. This evening, we have a public hearing to consider renaming Madrona Street E to Independence as I Street. I'm sorry. Again. This evening, we have a public hearing to consider renaming Madrona Street E East and Independence as I Street. The city council will make a final decision on the proposal based on the complete record, including the testimony received at tonight's public hearing. For anyone wishing to speak, we are asking you to use the speaker cards that are provided. When called upon to speak, it must be recognized by the chair, and you must state your name and address for the public record. I will now open the public hearing to consider renaming Madrona Street E for East and Independence as I Street at 7:41 p.m. And please have the staff report from.
You betcha. Hi there, everybody. Fred Evander, city planner here at the City of Independence. And this is a unique one. I've never dealt with this before, changing a road name. Basically, the issue is when Southwest Crossing got created a long time ago, 2021. It's not been, there's no houses in it, but the subdivision got approved in 2021. And one of the first things they did was create a 3-lot subdivision where, or it's called a 3-lot partition, where one of the parcels would contain the development and then the other 2 would eventually be sold off in the future. As part of that partition, they dedicated Madrona Street East. And we thought, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because Madrona Street is right across the 16th, and Monmouth. What we came to realize though, and this was in part because of Karen Johnson when she was here, is that addressing Madrona Street East would not make any sense at all. Our numbers go up from downtown, and Monmouth Street, Monmouth's addresses go up from their downtown. Their addresses hit 1900 about at 16th Street. Ours would be a little less than 15. So you go east and Independence, you would start duplicating Monmouth's numbers, right? Also, the directional east doesn't make any sense if it's in Southwest Independence. So based on all of that, we sort of sat around and scratched our heads a little bit. And we said, you know what, let's not call it Madrona Street at all. And so we looked at our code, and our code says, hey, if there's another street that's roughly parallel to it, use that street name. And we looked and we saw, oh, I Street is roughly parallel to it. And so our what we directed Southwest Crossing to do was call it I Street. They came back, they submitted their plat, they're getting very close to actually recording that thing. And we sent it to the county surveyor and he said, the road name's wrong. They're showing the road wrong. And so apparently to change the road name, I needed to take it to the planning commission, get their recommendation, and then also bring it to you folks for your decision that this is in the interest of the city and the surrounding 6 mile area. So anyway, that's what we're doing here tonight. We do think that this is ultimately the thing that's most consistent with our code and the most practical thing to do in this situation. We do not want folks on that street to be contending with emergency calls that are going to the wrong place, or mail that keeps on getting delivered to the other 1,400 or whatever it might be. So that's why we're recommending this change. Yeah, are there any questions?
More importantly, DoorDash.
Yes.
See it on the, yeah, the papers, all right?
I know.
Any questions of staff? All right, I move to read ordinance six, wait, we still have,
First one,
sorry, oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. We've heard from everyone who is interested in this discussion. Please limit your comments to questions and questions to 3 minutes in length, and remember to state your name and the city of residence for the records. Do we have? I did proceed. Any testimony? Great, thank you very much. Further questions from that?
I have lots, but.
That's all right. I now declare the record and hearing closed at 7:45 p.m.
Okay, now I move to read ordinance 1640, an ordinance to change the name of Ronas Street East and Independence High Street. The text of which is contained in the council packet for the first time.
Second.
We have a motion by Council Roden and a second by Council Morton. Any further questions? Roll call please.
Council Ford. Aye. Council Morton.
Aye.
Council Martin Willis.
Aye.
Council Boisvert.
Aye.
Council Broden.
Aye.
Council Source.
Aye.
The adoption of an ordinance renaming Madrona Street East and Independence as High Street.
That's an awful lot of paper to change a street name.
Second reading.
I move to read the proposed ordinance 1640 for the second time by title only.
Second.
We have a motion by Council Martin, this is the Council, second by Councilor DeBoer. Further discussion, roll call please.
Council Source.
Aye.
Council Broden. Aye. Council Boisvert.
Aye.
Council Martin Willis.
Aye.
Council Morton.
Aye.
Council Ford.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to read.
Yeah.
We have the,
The adoption of an ordinance renaming Madrona Street East and Independence as High Street. Now.
I move to adopt proposed ordinance 1640.
Second.
we have a motion by Councilor Morton and a second by Councilor Walker. Any further discussion? Roll call please.
Council Ford.
Aye.
Council Morton.
Aye.
Council Martin Willis.
Aye.
Council Boisvert.
Aye.
Council Roden. Aye. Council Source.
Aye.
Ordinance passed.
Thank you. Now we are doing executive session.
Correct.
Right.
We will now take executive.
We need to officially take a result. Procedurally.
Monica, do we have a script for the mayor, or is it just the executive session one? We will be recessing from the city council and moving into executive session, and then we will come back to city. That works.
You have to cite. We can share.
Yeah, that will get into executive session.
Hold on, I do have that. I have a title thing for it. Alright. There.
Thank you, I'll read this really quick. The governing body will meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. Executive sessions are closed to the public. Representatives of the news media and designated staff may attend, except as otherwise provided by law. All information discussed in the executive session is confidential and may not be discussed. So we will convene, to executive.
We're live.
All right, thank you. It is 8:44. We are reconvening from executive session.
With that, I move that the city council direct city manager West to continue with negotiations on the museum bill.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Martin Lewis and a second by Councilor Soares. Do you have any further discussion?
I say something there, I know we have more to do, but it's important. I don't think any of us take this decision lightly. I wanna just thank Amy for her work.
No, you move.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, my apologies.
Well, as long as you don't talk about anything that was going
Yeah,
on
that's
in the
what I'm
executive
saying.
session, you're okay.
Okay.
I wanted to just read, he said the same thing.
Yes.
I just wanna just say like, this isn't a reflection on anyone's work. It was a promise that I think we made to the community. I really respect Director Christensen and all she's done. I'm proud to walk alongside her in some of that work. And we'll continue to do that. I hope she does not take this as a reflection on anything she's done, because we're so lucky to have. And this the building is not the museum. It's a building. So just need to say that.
Right.
Thank you.
Patience and loss.
And I echo that. I agree that, our stories remain. We have a lot of really creative and innovative ways we can share those stories until, the next opportunity comes along. So I think it's, like Councilor Short said, not a reflection of quality of the museum. Further discussion. And then you go.
Councilor Source.
Aye.
Councilor Roden. Aye. Councilor Waller.
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis.
Aye.
Councilor Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Ford.
Aye.
Thank you. And are these still 376?
So we will withdraw 7.6 and bring it back to you at the next city council meeting. There was a slight modification that needs to be done on the notice, and so we will restart the process in July.
Moving on to 7.7, proposed resolution number 26-1655. Turn it over to the director.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So we're approaching year end and we're just doing some budget cleanup to make sure that we're keeping our expenditures within the appropriations for local budget law. Primarily, what you have before you with resolution 26-1655 are appropriation transfers. So when reviewing the budgeted personnel services costs, how they were allocated across departments and various funds, correlated with the allocations that are in the budget document, the 10% to one department, 1% here, 5% there, the spread that we approved. There was a miscalculation, it appears, in how the dollar amounts were entered into the budget document, if that makes sense, across the funds. So we did allocate the funds the correct dollar amount, but the amounts that went into different funds or departments needs to be moved around. This is not saying that we are transferring $133 necessarily from police into other departments. It just means that was that fund had enough excess at this time to do it in just that one move. So in the transfers for personnel services, what you have before you is just moving the appropriations amongst the various departments so that it matches the allocation of the salaries in the general fund. Additionally, we have a couple other areas where we are looking that we're gonna have over expenditures approaching year end, so we just need to transfer appropriations. Again, this isn't appropriating any additional dollars. This is just transferring appropriations based on the categories in which they were appropriated. So in the community services department, the utilities and insurance costs, for whatever reason, when the budget was developed, came in higher than the amount that was budgeted. So we have unexpended contract services in that department. So I'm requesting council transfer the appropriation from contracted services into operations to cover those overages. Additionally, in the water and storm drain funds, the areas where we're going over are the credit card processing fees for all the bills that are paid for utility services. They came in quite a bit higher than what was originally budgeted. So we're just gonna transfer amounts from another category into that category so that we're within our threshold. And then down, were there any questions about the transfers before I move on to appropriations?
Would this be considered an operational move, and does this necessarily have to come to council every time? For this type of transfer?
It does. So this is transferring funds, and per local budget law, the city council is the governing body is the one with the authority. I'm sorry?
Appropriations or funds?
It's appropriation, where the funds are appropriated in the department budget. So when we pass a budget, we pass it by category, the grouping. So we have the category of personnel services, we have a category for repairs and maintenance, a category for contract services, etc. And we are not allowed to overexpend those categories without council approval. So those are the transfers in the top section. And down at the bottom, we have a couple of grants that haven't been appropriated yet. So this is where the council, we've received dollars, then they are not incorporated into our budget. And so council has to grant authority to appropriate that revenue so that we can spend those funds.
And then for the questions for third. Action item.
I move that council approve resolution number 26-1655 to amend the fiscal year 2025-26 adopted budget in accordance with the above noted recommendations. Second.
A motion by Councilor Forrest, second by Councilor Morton, further discussion.
March one.
It's
like one of the apps.
I know. Further discussion. And then we vote.
Counselor Court,
Aye.
Counselor Morton,
Aye.
Counselor Martin Lewis,
Aye.
Counselor Water,
Aye.
Counselor Roden. Aye. Counselor Source.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
This last one, you have public hearing.
Yeah. Alright. So this is for item 7.8, public hearing proposed resolution number 26-1658 supplemental budgets. This evening we have a public hearing to consider a proposed supplemental budget for fiscal year 2025-26. The city council will make a final decision on the proposal based on the complete record, including the testimony received at the next public hearing. For anyone wishing to speak, we're asking them to use the speaker cards that are provided. And called upon to speak, you must be recognized by the chair and you must state your name and address for the public record. I will now open the public hearing to consider a proposed supplemental budget for fiscal year 2025-26. It is 8:53 p.m. May I please have the set for.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. So tonight we are considering a supplemental budget for the Tourism and Events Fund. Now, per Oregon's local budget law, when appropriations need to be changed, when we have to prepare a supplemental budget that is greater than 10% of the total fund balance, then that has to take place in a public hearing. It does not include the budget committee in any way. It is still an action taken by council through resolution. But the determining factor here is we're above that 10% threshold. And the Tourism and Events Fund is a standalone fund. So it's quite a bit lower than, say, we're considering the general fund. When we're looking at general fund appropriations, we have the entirety of the fund for that total number. So we have to hit a large dollar amount for the need to have a public hearing. But here, this is its own fund. So if we go above 10% of tourism and events expenditures, we have to have a public hearing. So.
It took this long to figure out what the costs were associated with the staff?
Yes. So there's been quite a bit of accounting cleanup this year since I've come in. Not only were the budgeted amounts that we just spoke of previously, the budgeted amounts for personnel services in the departments didn't match the allocations, but then we also had issues with the changes that took place when the budget was adopted with the loss of staff in the finance department. Those changes didn't get put into this software. So all fiscal year, the personnel costs have been allocated based on the previous fiscal year's allocations. And we've had to come in and do quite a lot of cleanup across the board. So we've been balancing, working to clean up and determine where we're landing at the end of the year. Yes.
Other questions? All right, with that, we wish to hear from everyone who's interested in this discussion. Please limit your comments and questions to 3 minutes and the length. Everyone who's switching in, sitting for the residents of record. Do you have any? All right. I now declare the record hearing closed at 8:55 p.m.
I move that city council approve resolution number 26-1658 to amend the fiscal year 2025-2026 adopted budget in accordance with the above noted recommendations.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Martin Lewis and a second by Councilor
With confusion.
further discussion. None, do roll call please.
Councilor Source,
Aye.
Councilor Roden, aye, Councilor Wagner,
Aye.
Councilor Martin Lewis,
Aye.
Councilor Morton,
Aye.
Councilor Court, aye.
One, 2, 3, consent.
No, just one.
One and done. All right, thank you. With that, please keep in mind, we still have the URA to get through, okay, too excited. Where's the council now?
This one quick.
I just want to say that I'm super excited that everybody's putting their chairs out this year super early. Usually I put mine out July 1st, and I get criticized because my chair's out earliest and I went around town and I just can't believe how early the chairs are. But I think it's amazing that we're celebrating our country's 250th anniversary birthday and call it. I'm just stoked at how excited I am. So good for everybody for the chairs.
I'll follow that up with, you can still get your tickets for the 4th of July event at Katie Park, South Quarter.
And you'll be in the park.
Yes, we'll be at the, farmer's market Saturday.
So I've been seeing a lot on social media about community members concerned with the tenor of our conversations in council. And I just want to speak to that just for a moment. I think it's really important for us as counselors to model the behavior we want to see in our community. And so I just want to make sure that we all kind of reflect on that and think about moving forward if we can try to treat each other with the dignity and respect we all deserve. It's something that our community is desiring. And I just want to make sure that we mention that and say we hear you. And at least this counselor will do his best to model the behavior I want to see. And not, so okay.
I have one.
Thank you for that reminder.
Wanted to thank everybody who came down on the 24th of June despite the heat and enjoyed last day of school put on by the Independence Downtown Association. The crowd was huge. The Kona Ice was extremely popular. And I heard that Elsa and Spider-Man really had a great time.
Very fun event. Any further announcements? All right, with that we will adjourn our city council meeting at 8:09. Council open. All right, Tuesday, June 23rd. We are going to be calling to order the urban renewal agency meeting at 8:30. Can we do a roll call, please?
Councilor Source,
Present.
Councilor Roden, here, Councilor Ballmer.
Here.
Mayor Schwarzbach. Here. Councilor Martin Willis.
Here.
Councilor Moore.
Here.
Councilor Moore. Here.
Thank you. We have our meeting minutes from our regular meeting on June 9th that need approval.
Move to approve is received.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Morton, a second by Councilor Porter. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Councilor Moore. Aye. Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis.
Aye.
Councilor Ballmer.
Aye.
Councilor Rhodes. Aye. Councilor Source.
Aye.
Do we have any visitor or public comments? Thank you. New business, proposed resolution or budget.
Good evening, thank you. Again, we're approaching the end of budget year, so we're reviewing our expenditures to ensure we are adhering to local budget law. If you recall, during our last audit presentation, this was something that was actually a finding in our audit. We had expended fees and audit services in our urban renewal agency that were not budgeted for. And again, in fiscal year 25-26, our current budget year, we don't have any materials or services budgeted to cover the audit services provided to the URA or the filing fees. So I am requesting before council in resolution 2026-02 to appropriate funds to materials and services in our urban renewal projects fund to cover those audit costs and filing fees.
Where are those funds coming from?
So we have received revenue above our tax revenue above and beyond what was budgeted for the fiscal year. So we're just appropriating additional funds that we haven't received to cover that expenditure.
Like, does it mean we're
No.
It doesn't mean we're winning.
Oh. That's my question.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Further question?
I move to approve resolution number 2026-02, authorizing budget amendments for fiscal year 25-26.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilor Morton, and a second by Councilor Martin Willis. Further discussion? And then we vote.
Councilor Source.
Aye.
Councilor Rhodes. Aye. Councilor Ballmer.
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis.
Aye.
Councilor Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. And that's any further announcements?